Are you tired of having compliance tasks consume your day and frustrate your clients? What if we could turn that challenge into an asset for you in your financial advisory business? Well, in this episode, we are going to unravel how to seamlessly blend compliance into your client experience and streamline your processes using technology and automation. Well, don't let compliance be a roadblock. Instead, make it a springboard to a more efficient, client-friendly practice. So stay tuned and let's learn how we can do that. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back. And after a 2-week break, we're back and we're live. And if you are watching the recording, obviously, warm welcome to you as well. And what's been up? I don't know. Coming back from a very warm place to a very cold place here in Johannesburg. So still getting used to the cold. But yeah, that's how it goes. So very excited for today's episode. I am joined this morning by Lelani to do current affairs, graciously brought to us by the Financial Planning Institute. And then we've got Norma, we've got Kobus Klein in the house talking about how to accelerate your brand. And then I've got a couple of amazing announcements. They're amazing because they're my announcements, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see. And then we get into the feature topic today. So I've got loads to say today about this. We'll also be doing the lucky draw for the coffee. And today the hashtag is actually quite easy. So just hashtag yes. Hashtag yes if you want to be in the draw for the coffee at the end of the show. So we'll be doing that. I will also be announcing our upcoming guests for next week. And I did say guests. We've got multiple guests next week. So really looking forward to that. Right. So without any further ado, let me just quickly say a warm good morning. I want to try and save as much time as I possibly can. So we've got Mr. Mark Weston Ford in the house very first this morning. So good morning, Mark. Nice seeing you. Thanks for being here. Harry Nell, an icy Pretoria. Okay, so that sounds a little bit colder than Krugersdorp. So good morning. Good morning, Tinus. Nice to see you as well. I don't even know how cold it gets in Bloemfontein, but you can let us know. We've got Terence. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you, Terence. Jaco Roos, goeiemôre. Lekker om jou te sien. Goeiemôre, Ferdi. Jy kan ook laat weet, how's it going in Bloem? Mary, good morning. Nice to see you all the way from KZN. Got Johan Basson. Good morning. Goeiemôre, Johan. Nice to see you. Neil, thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning. Got some early messages from you, so good morning. Razan, good morning. Nice to see you. Awesome stuff. Got Shamaine in the house. Good morning. And then we've got a whole loads of yeses. And then we've got Heloise saying good morning. Good morning, Heloise. You're also in that icy Pretoria where Harry is. And then Julie. Good morning, Julie. Thank you very much for saying hi. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, let's get the show on the road. First up is Lelani with the latest. And let's hear what she's got for us this morning.
Yes, good morning, Francois and team. And yep, indeed, it's icy in Pretoria. I'm sitting here in Uitzicht Park, and it's quite cold. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Francois, to give you an update from the Financial Planning Institute of Southern Africa. So I'm going to quickly kick off with a few announcements from the FPI. And first and foremost, thank you so much to all of the professional members that attended the annual general meeting that we had, the AGM, on the 13th of June. It was a very successful day, and well done to the chair and the chair-elect, Kirsty Scully and Jill Larkin. You really did an outstanding job to bring our members up to date with what's going on at the FPI. And thank you also so much for approving the FPI's audited financial statements. But what else happened during the board meeting and during AGM? So first and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to Johan Klutter and his team at Integrity Academy. They are now officially a recognized educational provider of the FPI. Why is that important, Francois? Well, if we look at our designations, specifically the RFP designations and the FSA designations, which is our advice designations, those qualifications are then recognized specifically for those designations so that you can be RPL'd into the designation. So what does RPL mean? It's recognition of prior learning. So you will then be exempted of the RFP and FSA examination, just like you currently are if you've completed a Moonstone, Millpark, and Sanlam NQF 5 and NQF 6 and 7 qualifications. With the CFP examination, well, you will never be exempted from those examinations because it's a global designation. So that's an update from Integrity Academy. Then if we quickly scoot through the CPD policy, we've had some changes to the CPD policy. So just to remind everybody that registered financial practitioner, which is the RFP designation, you have to do 20 CPD hours, which is 18 verifiable and 2 ethics. FSA, financial services advisor, you need to do 25 CPD hours, of which 5 is ethics and practice standards. The rest is verifiable and technical knowledge. And then your CFP professional, you still have to do 35 CPD hours as aligned with international standards. Then a very interesting new category, or shall I say an updated category. Thank you to all our retired members who remained part of the professional database of FPI, but also, you know, what you do for us from a mentoring point of view. So all retired members going forward, whether you are RFP, FSA, or CFP, you need to do 15 CPD hours per cycle. We do take note that you're no longer professionally practicing, but you are involved in mentoring the upcoming new professionals. So you still have to do CPD. So for the retired members, there's very specific criteria. You can reach out to the FPI. You only pay half of your membership fee, and you need to do 15 CPD hours because you still need to keep your knowledge up to date if you're going to mentor the young ones coming up. So that's changes to the CPD policy. Then a quick announcement, we have new directors. So thank you everybody for taking part in the election. So the elected members that we have is Jean Cooper. Welcome, Jean. You will add a lot to especially the Risk and Audit Committee because she is a chartered accountant as well. And then welcome back, Olweto Masanabu. She was re-elected by everybody. So Olweto, wonderful to have you on the board for another term. And then we have board appointed. So we have elected directors and then appointed directors. And then the appointed director is Vuledzane Gloria Dangale from Liberty. Some people know her as Vuledzane and some know her as Gloria. She's very strong from a compliance point of view and she will add a lot of value to the FPI board. Then my fellow executive, FPI assumes and accepts King 4. So there needs to be another executive. So the rest of the directors are non-executive directors. But then the other director is Ronald Matande. Welcome back, Ronald. So that is high-level feedback from the FPI and also quickly the pass rate. The pass rate seems to normalize at about 48%. Then, Francois, I know this may be old news, but I still run into people where they are not aware that the updated pot retirement system has actually come out for public feedback. So I'm going to quickly, if you allow me, just scooch through one or two updates with regards to the pot system. So I'm reading from a summary that I did make available to FPI members that Saturday morning when the announcements came out. So National Treasury and the South African Revenue Services released the revised 2023 Draft Revenue Laws Amendment Bill and the 2023 Draft Revenue Administration and Pension Laws Amendment Bill for public comment. This bill aims to implement the first phase of the two-pot system. They now call it the component system. So if you hear about the component system, it is actually the pot system. So the first phase of the two-pot system, retirement system, and considers feedback that was received in 2022 already, which is why your public comment is so a period is so short, because there's a few changes since the last document. So the revised bill proposes the following key tax changes, and we have to know what is going on with regard to the two-pot system because we're not going to be able to stop this. This is coming through the pipeline. Implementation of the implementation date of the two-pot or component system is still 1 March 2024. Then there's a proposal for seed capital. So what on earth does that mean? So if you look, there's three buckets, or let's call it three pots. So the first pot that you have is the vested component, or the vested pot, where all the member shares will go into the vested pot. And then from that pot, so there will be seed capital that you can take, the members can take, which is limited to 10% of the vested pot, capped at 25,000 Rand, taxed at marginal rate. This is very important. Now, I did hear through the pipeline and through, whispers here and there, we think public comment may be that, but 25,000 after it's been taxed and there was fees deducted, maybe public comment would be that seed capital of 25,000 Rand should be more. But it remains to be seen what's going to come from public comment. And then from the 1st of March 2024, 1/3 of your contributions will go to the savings pot and 2/3 will go to the retirement pot. Now, what is then different is members of the fund can then, on an annual basis, once a year, in other words, withdraw from the savings pot a minimum of 2,000 Rand, subject to fees, but also taxed at your marginal rate. So they can actually every year go in and withdraw whatever is in the savings pot. Now, also heard that people say, yeah, at retirement, when people take the 1/3, they blow the money anyway. But it doesn't mean that we should not look after retirement funds. What is contentious at the moment, and there's a lot of confusion, is around Section 37D, which is the deductions. So just high level 55 people belonging to a provident fund also changes there. So if you haven't had time to read it, go to www.fpi.co.za and go under news. The whole summary of the component system is actually placed there for you to read. So please, if you've got any comments on the two-pot system, please let us have it by not later than, I would say, the 8th or 9th of July, because feedback must go to National Treasury and SARS the 15th of July. So it is the 2023 Draft Revenue Law Amendment Bill, as well as the 2023 Draft Revenue Administration and Pensions Law. So obviously the Pension Funds Act must be changed to enable the changes that comes through. So you'll see changes to 37D, 37C, 14, 19, housing loans, those type of changes. So at the risk of taking more time than what we are allocated, Fransha, I want to say thank you for your time. And then back to you in the studio. Have a blessed Friday.
Thank you very much, Lalani. Appreciate it. And let's move swiftly along to Norma. And this morning, Norma is talking about what happens when we use other successes against ourselves. So looking forward to this one.
Good morning. So glad to be back after this short break we had. So I want to talk to you today about how we look at other people's successes and then we use it against ourselves, and then just how it impacts us from a personal growth and development point of view. So I just want to share a quick story to start with. Roger Bannister is a guy that broke the 4-minute mile record in 1954. So up until that point, there was a lot of people that attempted that to break that record, but they could never do that. So once Roger Bannister broke this record and broke through that barrier, a lot of people after him also went and broke that record, broke through that barrier. And that just tells me, and I'm just realized from looking at that story, is that we love looking at other people's successes. We look at other people's successes, and it's such a powerful source of inspiration and motivation for us. And it tells us what is humanly possible and what is our human potential going forward. And a lot of times then we use the other people's success stories against ourselves. So we look at them achieving all these things, and then we want to go and compare, and we feel overwhelmed by other people's achievements. So we all know intellectually that comparing ourselves to others, we can't really do that. We know that we all start in a different place at a different time and with different skills and talents and experiences, but still we do that. So we look at all these experts, and we see how they perform, and we see how they do their craft, and they look so flawless, and they look so like if they do it so effortless, and they do it with so much confidence. And then we sort of look at ourselves and we see, okay, well, I can't do it like that. I don't look like that. I don't sound like that. And then I'm not even going to attempt this. I'm just going to leave this to the professionals. And then we also go and we leave and we say to ourselves, maybe I need to practice a little bit more. Maybe I need to go learn a whole lot more stuff. And that way of thinking isn't really serving us in any way. Because if we think that way, that just keeps us small. It keeps us procrastinating. It makes us see what we don't have. It makes us see what we lack. And we keep repeating this, that we're not ready yet. So if you find yourself, if this speaks to you, or there's people maybe in your circle that struggles with this exact same thing, I want to give you a couple of things today that you can remind yourself with and about, and also use these words of encouragement for those people that you see struggling with the same issue. So number one is that we can look at other successes and it can inspire us. And then we need to bring back the attention and the focus to ourselves. Then we need to ask ourselves, what am I good at? Why am I here? Why did I maybe start this business? Who is the people that I was put here to serve? And how am I the perfect person to serve them? Then the second thing we can do and remind ourselves with is that we need to start where we are. Those experts were once also the beginners. So if we look at ourselves and see where we are right now, then what can I do today? So if I know and I believe that I have everything inside of me to attempt this thing or to make a success out of something, what would I be willing to do today or this week? If I know that I am 100% equipped to face this challenge or to do this thing in front of me, what would I be willing to do today? And then go and take that action. Number 3, we need to remind ourselves that we have to have compassion, because as a baby, they crawl first and then they walk and then they run. So they don't go from crawling to running. The same with us. There is going to be times and places where we fall down. We maybe fall on our face a little bit. So we need to have compassion for ourselves. We know that we are going to be in a place where we make mistakes and where we're learning. And also to be vulnerable, that we're not an island, that we need to connect with those around us. And it's okay for us to ask for help. It's okay for us not to know everything all the time. And then lastly, because we're always so concerned with other people's opinion, we have to deliberately decide that other people can have their opinion and allow them to have their opinion, be it positive or negative. And also, we can allow them to be wrong about us. So we can still go out and we can do our thing, we can learn more, we can practice, and we can become better. And we don't have to let other people's opinions or comments or feedback dictate what we're going to be doing next. So just to close off, is that we learn best by doing. So we have to allow ourselves to be bad, to get better, to become good, and then eventually become the expert. So if we look at other people and we look at their successes and we use it in a way that pushes us forward, then we eventually become the expert and we eventually become that success story that people maybe in 70 years will be talking about. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for being here. I'll be back next week.
Thank you very much, Norma. Next up, we have Kobus Klein doing his segment on Accelerate Your Brand. And Kobus' topic today is propelling your personal brand into orbit while navigating social media and compliance. So, oops, I forgot to remove Norma. Sorry, Norma, don't worry. So here we go with Kobus, and let's hear what Kobus has to share with us today.
Good morning, our PROpulsion community. I'm so excited to be here today, but also in the future, for a couple of slots during the last half of 2023 to kickstart your Friday morning with a talk on branding topics that's crucial for everyone in the world of financial planning. This morning's topic is propelling your personal brand into orbit while navigating social media and compliance. In today's interconnected world, personal branding has taken a crucial role. It is the future of financial planning, client acquisition, and protection. It's no longer just about what you do, but how you present what you do to the world while staying compliant. Consider this quote: propel your brand into orbit with propulsion. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? It isn't about physical propelling into space, but rather about using your unique advice proposition, your personal brand, to propel your career to higher levels, gaining high visibility and credibility while raising the bar, as Francois always says. Social media is a powerful tool that can help to launch this proverbial rocket. It will help you become a thought leader in your field, showcase your expertise, and attract clients who are aligned with your values and your approach. But social media is not without its challenges, especially in our profession. Financial planners operate in a highly regulated environment where compliance is key, as the FBI will tell you. So how do you use social media to enhance your personal brand while being mindful of compliance and requirements? First, you must clearly define your personal brand. What makes you unique and what are your core values? Your personal brand should be an authentic representation of who you are and what you believe in and what you stand for. It's the unique combination of skills and experience that makes you, you. I refer to it as Corpus Incorporated. Remember, consistency is key. You must turn up. Whether it's on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, your domain, Profile Me, or your blog, ensure your personal brand remains consistent across all platforms. Always be mindful of compliance. It is crucial that you fully aware of your company's social media policies and the regulatory environment. Be careful not to make recommendations or provide financial advice on social media. There are some advisors, whom we won't name, who use their platforms as magnets to find a needle in a haystack. While this approach may seem innovative and catchy, it can blur the line between professional advice and personal opinion, potentially leading to compliance issues and even debarring. It is important to engage responsibly and active with your audience. So encourage questions, respond positively to comments, and interact professionally. Building a community online can help to reinforce your personal brand and make you more relatable and accessible to your clients and potential clients. It is important to regularly review and update your social media profiles. The financial planning landscape is ever changing, and so too should your social media and personal brand. Stay up to date with social media and financial planning trends and changes, and make sure your social media profiles and brand reflect these changes. Most critical, don't forget about privacy and security. As financial planners, we deal with sensitive information and with massive fines under POPIA and other consequences. Make sure your online platforms have strong security measures in place, and avoid sharing any confidential information, even by accident. Remember, personal branding is about more than just self-promotion. But if you do self-promotion, stay humble in your approach. It's about sharing your expertise, engaging with your audience, and building a reputation that will attract and retain clients. Propelling your brand into orbit means standing out, being unique, and demonstrating value. Remember, your personal brand is your ticket to your future and current clients' hearts and minds. Harness the power of social media and let your brand become a beacon of trust, expertise, and innovation while always keeping compliance in mind. So let's propel your brand over the next couple of propulsion shows into the orbits of success, and best wishes with your ongoing personal branding, which are a journey and not a project. Thank you, Francois.
Thank you very much, Corpus. That was excellent. So with that, let's do some quick announcements. All right. So first off, if you want to win some coffee at the end of the show in a lucky draw, you can comment #yes in the comments. That's all you need to do. You can add it to any of your other comments or thoughts that you're sharing, or you can just comment #yes. That's all up to you. And we will then, you'll go into the lucky draw automatically for those of you that don't know. And we will do a lucky draw and you can win some amazing coffee, which obviously is sponsored with the compliments of Colombo Coffee. So Colombo Coffee is over in Durban. So they are our sponsor for the coffee. So thank you very much to them. There is sort of a little bit of a process. So we will send you a link and you can complete that. You choose your coffee the way you like it, and they deliver it right to your door. Not ready-made. It's in a packet. It's beans or ground, whatever. But they will deliver it to your door. So fantastic. Right. So what have I got to share with you today? Well, let me do this. So I'm obviously a little bit rusted. First one off is the WhatsApp Marketing Masterclass. So you know about this. If you haven't joined the waitlist yet, please do so. The link is down in the description. You can see it there. You can click it and just join the waitlist. We are about to announce the first intake. But for now, the very, very first session is taking place on the 18th of July. And that's going to be exclusive for PROpulsion members as well as for PRO4Me users. So that will be a session that we will be doing for them. So for the PROpulsioneers, as we'd like to call them, and all the PRO4Me users, do look out for the invites. And you will do this first. So really looking forward to that. It's an amazing, amazing masterclass where we teach you everything you need to know about doing WhatsApp marketing the right way. So do look out for that, the 18th of July. If you are not a user of PRO4Me or you're not a member of PROpulsion, do go and check it out. The links are all down below as well. So that's the first one. The second one, which is quite important, and that's launching on the 19th of July. We've got a busy July ahead of us. So is the Cash Flow Modeling Winter Camp is kicking off. We've got a load of guests. But specifically, I want to mention Tian Herselman. Tian is the head of advice at Old Mutual Wealth. So he's going to join us. It's a 6-module program, all delivered live on PROpulsion. So it's exclusive to PROpulsion members. So if you're interested, go and check PROpulsion out and see if you would like to become a member. So looking forward to that. We're going to delve into cash flow modeling. So the concepts, there are several books that we're going to delve into and sort of, I won't say tear apart, but we're definitely going to dive deeper into those and see whether those things hold true, and also highlight the things that are great from those books. And next week, I'll share a little bit more about which books those are. But and then we've got Tian to come and talk to us from a South African perspective and South African software perspective around this as well. So really looking forward to it. It's a global event. So as I said, exclusive to PROpulsion members. So if you're not a member, go and check it out. And then the other upcoming program that we will have also on PROpulsion will be Microsoft 365 training. So everything you need to become a champion in Microsoft, that's what we're going to be doing. So do look out for those announcements as well. I don't have a fixed date, but it will also be soon, probably be August. But looking forward to the Microsoft 365 training, all again on PROpulsion. And just by the way, if you don't know all these programs, if you're a PROpulsion member, you don't pay a cent to attend those. Neither do you pay a cent to attend our events. So apart from that, there's loads of other reasons to become a PROpulsion member. But you can find all the detail in the link down below. Wow, that was quick. All right, so I just saved myself 2 minutes. So let's get into today's show. And I want to talk about a little bit about how we can really turn compliance from something that is a pain and a thorn in our side into something that's an asset and can really help you find more clients and up the client experience from that point. So looking forward to sharing this with you. All right, let me just make sure everything is good. So let's get started. I want to start off with talking a little bit about the current state of compliance. I think it is sort of a good place to start and something to just consider where we are and where we find ourselves, and maybe touch a little bit on where things are going. So first off, I think still for many, and I'm just basing this, and it's maybe an assumption, but I'm definitely basing this on conversations and also seeing what people are doing with certain aspects, is that for a very long time, and I think even since the beginning for most people, and I'm making a generalization, yes, if this does not apply to you, please just ignore me and enjoy your coffee. But it is a bit of a tick box exercise, because we had a list of things that we need to comply with, and we need to show that we complied with those things. And the way we did that was through documentation. So there would be literally tick boxes on those things to say, I did this, we did this, we did this. Or at the very least, your compliance officer is ticking a box to say, oh, this is in place, this is in place, this is in place. And that was it. So we all have all these fantastic policies and guides and, SOPs and all those kind of things in place, but we never look at them. We don't really use them. So that's been a big thing from a compliance point of view. And I'm not even talking about CPD being a tick box exercise. And the other thing that I experienced in practice and also managing teams of advisors is that it's something that happens after the fact. So compliance is seen as a specific process or a specific action or a specific whatever that happens after I've closed the client, after their policy have been issued, after we've concluded what we set out to conclude. Then I do all the compliance. So it's a after the fact sort of exercise that takes place. Obviously, and I think many of you, and you can share with me in the chat if you like, it's definitely something that is more of a burden and something that is a must do. Oh, it's one of those things I must do. Just think about how we position these things to clients as well. Saying to them, I have to give this to you. You have to sign this. I have to discuss this with you. That is sort of the go-to thing. And it's correct. But it comes across as being, I don't really want to do this. If I didn't have to, I wouldn't. So that's sort of the feeling that I get from this. So it's more of a grudge thing than anything else when it comes to this. But something that's definitely been happening over the last few years, and I think with Kofi, I don't know, Lelani, when is Kofi coming in? You can maybe share if you have any insights into when that will happen, if it's this year, next year, or if it's happened, is that, there is this sort of evolving process journey that we're going through to move more to a principle-based. Now, a principle-based sort of compliance regime or regulatory environment would mean that you would have to show through your actions and the outcomes that you are doing the right thing for the client and that you're really complying with everything that you need to comply with, instead of having this tick box. Because I think even the regulator realized that there is no value in having a tick box to say, oh, all these things are in place, so great, but how much are we really using this? And also then my question becomes like, what are the client thinking when we are talking to them about this? So the environment is definitely changing. It's moving to, let's show that we do this. Let's show that we treat customers fairly. Let's show that we're doing the right thing. Let's show that we put clients first. And that's sort of where it's moving. So I'm happy to see that, because I think that's the way we should go. But the next sort of part that I then want to talk about is that what is the impact of compliance on the client experience? Because that is sort of the current state, right? But what is the impact of that on our relationships with our clients, the trust that we have with clients, all of those good things? So if we really think about it, and also keen to hear your views and your opinions and your experience, and sort of maybe how do you go about this? Maybe this is not even an issue for you. Maybe this is a massive issue for you. Don't be shy. Share that with us in the chat. But the impact of this on the client experience, I think, first of all, just think about this. And I do want us to put ourselves in the shoes of the client, because sometimes we forget about what that is like. But there's first of all, a mountain of paperwork, right? So it's a mountain of paperwork, because we've got to do all this stuff. Because if you're in certain organizations, you don't get paid, right? If you have your own FSP, you definitely want to make sure that these things are in place, because you don't want to put your license at risk. So it's always like, oh, we got to do all these things. And the other problem that I've got with this is just really like the way these documents are written. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a second. But all of this paperwork and all this information that we discuss, and now you think about, like, we want to delve deeper into conversations. We want to get to know the client, what's important to them, what are their life goals, et cetera, et cetera. And now we also have, that takes much longer. Plus we've got all this paperwork, and it's an overload of information. So client overwhelm is definitely at the order of the day in many, many cases, if not in most. Then also I would say, or I would argue that often there's a distrust that form as a result of this, which is actually the opposite of the intention of the regulatory environment and compliance and all of that, because that's all about protecting the client. But I think often it has the opposite effect. Why? Because of the way that we position it, because of the way that we talk to clients about it and say, you know, like, I have to do this. I'm sorry for all this paperwork. You know, that's the approach. So then, you know, why? I can see you don't really want to do this. And maybe it's unintentional from our side, but that's sort of, I think, the experience for many clients. So distrust is definitely something that forms with many clients, not with all of them, but with many of them. And the big thing is that we're doing this because we have to, as I said earlier. So I don't want to belabor that point. What is very important for me is really to consider what is it, and I've said this in many, many situations or many sessions, or like even some of the shows probably, is that what is necessary for compliance and what is necessary for the client. Or let me put it in another way. What is important for compliance and what is important for the client? Because those two things are not the same thing. But yet you look at the way that the advice process is built in many organizations, specifically the larger the organization, the more this is prevalent. So you will find that compliance have put together the advice process because we've got to make sure we cover our backsides. We've got to make sure all the T's are crossed and everything is double dotted and all of those kind of things. But at the end of the day, the client couldn't care about that. The client only wants to know, am I going to be okay? They want a one-pager that explains to them, like, you're going to be okay. You see that. And we need to split those two out. Because at the end of the day, and I'm sort of keen also to hear people like Lalani's feedback. Sorry, Lalani, I'm hampering on you because you took 2 extra minutes today. So, but I mean, there's things that are important to the client, and then there's a document and a way for us to present that. And once this is concluded, then we can sort of look at getting more signatures for more things. But we can't be using our compliance documents to explain something to a client or to show them their plan. Like, that needs to be documented in full later on. And when you get to a case where there is a complaint, at the end of the day, if I gave the client this to explain to them, and I can show where all of that came from and the discussions we had and all of that, then surely that is what they're looking for. So it's not to say that everything needs to get in front of the client necessarily, but I say that with a caveat. So please be careful about that. You need to check with your own compliance people, etc. But it is something that we need to start thinking about because it does impact the client experience when we're all about the compliance and the documentation from that point. All right. So the next part then is, how do I turn compliance into an experience and an asset, and how do I build trust using compliance, which is ultimately what we are looking to do. Now, for me, this is all about how we position. Our positioning of all of these aspects are very, very important. Now, let's just take something very simple like your disclosure document. In the disclosure document, it'll say, this is the FSP's name, we're licensed, this is our license number, these are all the categories. I mean, I look at those documents and I go like, does the client even know what a short-term deposit is, or what a collective investment scheme is, or what long-term insurance category A and B, 1 and B, well, C1, C, whatever they are? Like, do they even know? And do they even care? So yes, we need to disclose what we are allowed to give advice on, but shouldn't we be putting that into a language that the client understands and that links directly back to what the regulations say? Because they will read this stuff and go like, yeah, okay, it's fine. I have no idea. Until they have a complaint, then they'll go and find out what this meant. But otherwise, they didn't really care. So in other words, it's just wasting their time. So those are the kind of things that we really need to think about. What about something like the ombud? So, we usually go something along the lines of this. So, if there's ever a complaint, not do you ever have one, because I'm going to look after you like you are gold. So we look after, we never get complaints. But if you do, then you can go and complain to the ombud. So that's sort of the standard way that people position this in most instances. But what if we turn that around, right? So what if we start doing disclosures in a language that clients understand? What if we take something like the ombud and complaints and say, because you work with someone like me, you have added protection. And this protection means that if anything ever goes wrong, you have some recourse and there's additional protection built in for you. This is what you can do, blah, 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 take them through the compliance process. You first come to me. If I don't help you, then you go there. And then if you don't get help, you go to the ombudsman. So isn't that a more powerful, more positive way of saying, I have to tell you about the complaints process, and not that anything will ever go wrong, but then, so I just feel like this is a much more powerful sort of approach. What about something like the fit and proper requirements? How are we using those to set ourselves apart from others, or just at least building trust with the client? Because often if we all have to comply with fit and proper, it does mean that probably, we're all saying the same stuff. But at the end of the day, is to take people through, like I had to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to sit here in front of you and take them through some of those things. So talk about your qualifications. And don't say I meet the minimum qualifications. This is my qualification. This is my experience. This is sort of all the other hoops, the regulatory things that I had to jump through to make sure that I understand the environment and that I will treat you and look after you in the way that you deserve to be looked after. And then also around, what experience you've got, the fact that you do continuous professional developments, all of those requirements, you can position to a client in a very positive way. And I'll get to a little bit later just around maybe how we can up the game in that space as well. Then there's another document that is really like, I think, hectic for anybody to read, and that's the record of advice. So how can we use the record of advice in a better way, and a way that really enforces the advice that you gave, but also then the decision that the client made? Instead of having all this information, you must also almost have, I would say, and I might get flack for this because I want to give you more work, but maybe you should have a different version for the client to first see. So that's what I was talking about when we give advice, what the client is concerned about versus what you need for compliance. Those are two very different things. And we need to understand what we put in front of a client and what we talk to them about. So there's also in between all of this, obviously things like the financial plan, et cetera, that you sit and you present to them and you talk to them and you make decisions around that. And the record of advice is literally just a record of that. But how do we format that document in a way that makes a lot more sense for the client? Because the problem is this, that all of the compliance companies have given us templates and we just use it, because none of us have had time to go and put our own together, number one. And number two, we weren't sure what had to be in there. But I think we need to take those documents and see what we can do with those to make them so much more client-friendly so that it adds to this and not take away from the client experience. If you want to add more value, and this is maybe controversial, but if you want to add more value to your clients, take your CPD more seriously. So think about when you attend any kind of continuous professional development event, also look outside of CPD, because often there's amazing things that do not offer CPD, but it is something that will give you tremendous ability to add value beyond what you ever thought before. So not everything in the world is about CPD, because again, if it's a tick box exercise, everything in your world will be about CPD, but it's about having both. So there's great CPD programs that really changes lives and that really has an impact on your business. And to do this, you need to understand where your gaps are. If you don't understand where your gaps are, you're never going to benefit from CPD. It will stay a tick box exercise for the rest of your career. And it's just a waste of your time. So do take CPD more seriously, be more intentional with the CPD stuff that you do attend, and make it work for you. Spend that time. You've got to invest that time. If you are chasing business all the time, something else is wrong. We've got to make the time to do proper continuous professional development, whether it gives you points or not. So I think that's the important part that I wanted to share. Right. So then another big question is, how can technology help? And I think there's a few things. I'm not going to be able to touch on everything this morning around this, simply because it is a vast array of things that the technology can help you with. And it is just a few of the things that I do want to talk about. So one of the first major things, if you think about the grey listing and all this stuff, there's a much bigger emphasis on things like FICA, knowing your client, identifying clients, identifying the risks around those clients. So technology, there's amazing technology available. There's things like beeswax and what's the other one? DocFox, something like that, if I remember correctly. So there are definitely amazing tools that can link into databases, because there's no way if you ask a client, are you a politically exposed person, and they don't want to tell you that, they're going to say, yes, I am. So you definitely need to use technology that can do these checks for you at a very quick pace. So that's important. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about like gathering the documents around this. There's also processes and things that you can use for that. But ultimately, it is about identifying your client and making sure that there's no little things that you don't know about that could pose a risk. And having the mindset that I'm a small FSP and my clients, don't take that chance. It's just not worth it. So make sure that you are using technology to help you with those. They're quite affordable, so it's not that expensive, but the risk that it reduces for you is just priceless. Righty, then obviously automation, something that I'm big on. You know that I talk a lot about automation, and this is sort of getting communications and things out to clients. Now, I recently have been since December, I've been taking a deep dive into one particular person's work, and also attending some of the webinars, attending some of the training, etc. And one of the things that I realized they do very well that I don't think we do well, and there might be some of you who do this, but it just sort of dawned on me, like, we should be doing more of this. And that is sort of prepping somebody for a meeting, for example, or for whether it's for the first time or whether it's a review or whatever it may be. I get emails saying, like, look, before we meet, to make sure that you are prepared as much as possible, do the following 3 things. So they might be, read this little article, then there's a video, watch this video where this person explains more about this, and then maybe a 3rd thing. It doesn't have to just be one thing. But ultimately, that's also part of automation. So how can I automate some of those discussions? By recording a video or by putting it into text. But obviously, I think often it's best to have it in all the formats so that people can choose what they want. And you make it available to them before the time, because you are saving time by not having to go through this stuff. And you can even track whether they watched it or not. So there is that important part. And then when it comes to the meeting, we can just say, you know what, do you have any, did you watch? Yes. Do you have any questions around this? And then we can move on. But automation can definitely help you. And that's a better client experience, because ultimately you don't want to have a meeting with a client where half the time you're talking about your disclosure requirements and your terms and conditions and all those things. It is very important, don't get me wrong, but there's other ways to get that out the way before the time. So we need to think about that. Other automations that you can do is obviously like getting documents out automatically, pre-populating documents, etc. So I'm not going to get into too much detail on that, but there's loads of things that we can do with automation. So we need to go and think about what we can do from that point. The next one is digitization. So digitization is saying out how much of the things we do can we digitize? But there's also a caveat here. You'll remember that it was last year. Was it end of, when did I speak to Mickey? It could have been earlier in the year, or it could have been end of last year. I spoke to Mickey Gambale from Innate, and one of the things that we spoke about was that a big mistake that people make is they take their existing processes and their existing sort of way of doing things and putting it online, instead of saying this is an opportunity to redesign this from scratch. So definitely something that's important to consider, what technology can do for you, and then how you can make these things better so that you don't have to do certain things in the way that you do it anymore. The problem with all this stuff is that we need to spend time to get it done. So that's definitely one of the things that we need to be thinking about. But you do want to digitize as much as possible, because it comes with speed, efficiency, and obviously it eliminates a lot of mistakes. So very important. Then record keeping is the next one. You know, everything, Teams, Zoom, name it, Google Meet, all of those sessions, if you do virtual meetings, have transcripts now, so they can transcribe what is being said as long as you're speaking English in most of those instances. So it is important, you know, so you can record the meeting, but you can also immediately get a text version of that discussion. So all of those things. But then it's not just about having those records. Like, where do you store them? How do you store them? How searchable are they? What do you do with that at the end of the day? Like, how do you make sure that you form a complete picture of a client, and that you can use the information that you gather over time to just give better advice and to better engage with clients and to know what's really important to clients? Because there's no way by the time you get to the 20th client for the year that you're going to remember what the first client wanted unless you made notes. You've got to keep records about all of this kind of stuff. But that makes things better and better. And yes, the other thing, the more information you have, the more you can automate. The more information you have, the more you can enhance your client experience, but only if you keep proper records. And I'm not talking about writing it down on a piece of paper. It's got to go into a electronic system at some point. Obviously, something that I think many are using thanks to COVID is digital signatures. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but use digital signatures as much as possible. I had to sign a lot of stuff when I came back, and all of it I did digitally, which just makes my life so much easier. There's a track record of it. There's an audit trail, like it's proven. It just works. So do use digital signatures if you don't yet, as much as possible, as far as possible, because it does make your life a lot easier from this point of view. But also remember, it's all about enhancing the client experience. So that's important. And then something that is maybe not technology related, but I think it is because we fire it off via technology. That is to give regular feedback and regular updates. In other words, to communicate regularly with clients. And all of that can come from the automation and the digitization and all of that. So do make use of those then as well. So then I guess it's all about really how can you up your game. This is some of the things that I think we just need to take time out to think about. As my friend Jonita Foster always says, take that helicopter day and just go and think about how can I really up the game from a compliance perspective, but with the aim of making it an amazing experience for the client and turning this grudge must-do thing into an asset that works for me. So first of all, as I said right in the beginning, put yourself in the shoes of the client. That is so important. Go through your own process. Get other people to go through your process and give you feedback. That's the simplest thing to do because you'll get honest, straight up feedback from them. So do that. One of the things that is very important as well is that your documents, just think about this for a second. Those documents look like legal documents. They're boring. Nobody wants to read them. You know, have you ever gone and taken out anything at the bank and they say, here's your terms and conditions. Do you want to read them? And you say no because they're in 1 point size and you can hardly read it. You forgot your magnifying glass at home. So you're not reading all that stuff. It's the same with us. So we think we've got all this stuff in place and then we wonder, but I did discuss this with you and you signed for it. And then we think like, why are clients still unhappy? So we got to think about that. So how can you design next level documents? Something that looks funky. They don't have to look boring. They don't have to look the way they do at the moment. I've asked for a few people for their documents and they're all the same. Boring, legal looking documents. Let's get away from that and still have what needs to be in there. But why can't it be funky? Why can't it relate directly to your brand? Why are these things so boring? So think about that. The other thing is, if you really want to up your game, just break your compliance process into its various steps and sort of identify at what part of all the other processes, be it the advice process or the onboarding process or any of those, the review process, where do these steps slot in and marry them with that part of that process. Because now you're doing compliance little bit by little bit by little bit instead of having this after the fact sort of exercise. So that's definitely something you can do to up that as well. So now it's an integrated experience instead of a standalone experience, which is just so much better with much less overwhelm. Then also record video explanations. Record video explanations. Make a little video that explains something to someone in simple terms in a way that they can understand. And there's sort of 6 ways that you can get people or that you can use to make complex things simple. We actually discussed that in the client meeting skills program on PROpulsion, but you can do that. And if you can use videos so that you can let somebody watch that before they come and see you, then that is an absolute time saver, but also it's such a nice, different experience. And yes, not all your clients are going to watch the video, I know, but if some do and most do, then how amazing is that? You'll never win over 100% of the clients to do this. Next thing is mind maps and summaries. So are you providing mind maps and summaries to clients, about what it is that you did for them or that you are doing for them? Or maybe it's just educational or it's value adding to them. But are you thinking about doing things like that? Are you packaging up some of your favorite books? Are you packaging up some of your favorite podcasts for them to listen to? That's really value adding for the conversation that you're having with them and the journey that you're on with them. So there's little things like that that you can do to up your game as well. And maybe not so much compliance focused, but it's definitely just a value added thing that I wanted to share. And then you've got to use more visuals, right? No legal document is visual. It's text only. It's boring. It is excruciating, to be honest. So how can we use visuals more and more to explain the concepts that we need to explain, but in that positive manner, and showing people how that would benefit them. So in closing, in terms of this particular thing, just to say, put yourself in the shoes of the client, position compliance requirements and fit and proper requirements as assets, not as a must do or because the law says I must or whatever. Take it and say, how can I show this to the client as being a benefit to them because they work with someone like me, someone that's licensed, someone that has gone through all of this, and somebody who works for a business that's licensed. What benefits do you get? So put it in that way. What is it that they get from that point of view? And then use technology as much as possible, and then up your game in how you present all of this to your clients. Good stuff. I hope you enjoyed that. Next up, let me just share the screen quickly. We are going to do the lucky draw for the coffee. So if you haven't yet, #yes, very easy, #yes. So do share that. Let me just get back here and then put that on the screen. Right. So there we go. So that is #yes. That is what you can put in. We've got 19 people in the draw. If you won in the last 3 months, you can't win again until your 3 months have lapsed. But we will then just do another draw if that is necessary. Right. So on that note, let me do the draw live for you. And let's see who wins today's coffee. There we go. Let's see. Who will it be today? Who will it be? Arun. Arun, I think you won before. Arun, did you? I think just comment in the chat quickly if you don't mind. I think you won before. Have you not? If not, then fantastic. Where are the cheers and the things? I can't remember. I must start making a list of who's won before, I guess. But yeah, so Arun, if you can just maybe confirm. Just want to make sure. So yes, there you goes. Righty. Good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I will just leave it at there, like if something needs to change anyway. So what's going to happen next week? I'm really excited for next week. Next week, we have our next Dream Chaser episode, and I've got 3 guests next week, which is Wynand Gous. I've got Brian Nicol and Jason van der Merwe joining me for that conversation. So I'm really excited for that. The week thereafter, on the 14th, we will have Wouter Fourie. So Wouter Fourie will be our guest, and we're going to obviously be talking everything about their latest book or the latest update to their book on retirement planning. So looking forward to that. So next week, Dream Chasers number 2. We've got Wynand and Brian and Jason in the house, and then the week thereafter we've got Wouter Fourie. Righty. So with that, we'll be back next week, same time. Same place, you know stuff. So have a great weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and continue to raise that bar. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.